Morning, Steph.
Morning, how are we?
We called you man of the people last time. You still happy with that?
I'm very happy with that, yeah.
What have you been up to?
Not a huge amount. Working, exercising, the usual stuff. Plodding along, really.
Plodding. I want you to meet Neil Cole.
Not a man of the people. I haven't found my people yet.
But a presenter, a writer, an actor, chameleon, comedian and caricature. What was that from? That was a Bowie lyric, I think. Do you like to do what you want to do above all else?
Yeah, definitely. It's difficult, but I've reached a point now where I'm starting to be able to make decisions to prioritize the things that I want to do while still having to do the things that I have to do. And sometimes I'm now getting to the point, for the first time in my life/career, that the things that I want to do and the things that I have to do are eliding. They're becoming the same thing. There are points, the more points in the year where the things that I want to do and the things that I have to do are the same thing. And it's taken me sort of 15 years to get to that point.
A friend of mine from school years ago, described the job that he did working on the railways as an inconvenient means to an end. Because he was a very intellectual, academic-y kind of guy. Even though we were in a kind of a secondary school, he was way above anyone else intellectually. Ended up working for British Rail, and just for the reason that it was just an inconvenient means to an end, i.e. a way for him to get money to read books and do what he wanted to do.
He sounds like he got a bit derailed career-wise then.
This is.
But it's good to be on tracks.
Absolutely. What platform did he complain on?
Again, this is why you're here.
It would have been good for his self-esteem as an engine for what he wants to create.
I haven't got anything.
But see, the thing is, I'm not sure about that as a philosophy in terms of, because you still spend the whole time that you're doing your actual job thinking, this isn't what I want to do. And I know that it's a difficult thing. I lost my dad, and my dad did a job that he didn't necessarily enjoy, and he would leave way too early in the morning, get home way too late at night, way too much stress, and that was how he lived his life. And then it was cut short way too young, and you kind of go, well, that's no, he had some good moments, I'm sure, but to die at 48 when your life has been, I'm working to have the fun times that the money affords that. No, enjoy, do the work you want to do. And sometimes you might struggle to pay the bills every now and again, but that's got to be a better way to live than. So that's what I'm saying is your friend sort of doing his railway job. I mean, maybe he enjoyed the job as well, and he was being disingenuous about that side of things, because you have to. You can't hate. You can't sort of dislike every minute of what you do just because it means you can have a holiday or buy books.
Yeah.
And have spare time.
I was putting the bins out the other day.
As a job?
As a chore.
Okay.
Well, I was told to do it, right, obviously, but I never know which colour the bins are supposed to be, because I kind of subscribe to the idea that you get rid of rubbish. You're not filing it, which is in the various coloured bins. And the guy and I bumped into the bin man, and I always like to kind of make a point of saying hello to people that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that, isn't it? Because they expect you not to say hello, and they kind of get scared when you try and engage them, don't they? They do around my area anyway. Because the unwritten rule is you don't engage them, but I think that's wrong, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't I don't do kind of Christmas boxes or that anything like that.
Yeah.
But I do like to acknowledge them when they're out when they're in the street doing their stuff.
Yeah, they're human beings.
And this guy, and I said to this guy, it was a nice day, and I said, hello, how you doing? And he went, yeah, all right. He said, I'm just been back from Turkey. He said, Ephesus. He said, studying classical military tactics. He just came out with this, and I went, oh, that sounds pretty good. And he said, yeah. So that's my thing.
And where'd you go from there?
Well, I was taken aback by that gambit.
Yeah.
It's an interesting opening gambit. It's like he already had a point to prove that he's not just a bin man.
Yes, that was exactly it.
Yeah.
But he was also pleased to be telling me that, and I think he was quite pleased that I was interested, and I didn't act surprised because I wasn't really. Everyone's got their story, haven't they? Everyone's got the things that they do. But he was clearly doing the job as a bin man for maybe just money. I don't know.
Again, a means to an end.
Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating.
The thing about the Turkish Constantinople battles and that area, I have no idea. I've got no idea. You look like I knew what I was going to talk about, but my time as a bin man was short lived, so I didn't get to finish that.
Yeah,
course.
where do I put plastic?
Purple.
Not around here.
No.
Blue.
Yeah. That's exactly it. It's interesting because there's people make massive assumptions about anyone, any walk of life, and I sort of try and it's not always easy, but one of my philosophies, one of my many crazy ways to try and live my life as a better person is to always imagine that everyone else has their own. Every single person that you come into contact with every single day of your life has their own pain, their own internal monologue, their own story, their own reasons for passing you at that point, their own, and you have to allow that, as the children would say, fam. You have to sort of imagine yourself in their shoes, and it's very the superpower that I would love to have is pure pragmatism, magnanimity. Because if you could genuinely put yourself in someone else's shoes all the time, then that would be an incredible superpower to have. Because then you could suddenly, and I don't mean in a kind of sixth sense, unbreakable. I'm an empath and I can feel your.
So you wouldn't be empathy man.
Yeah.
Ultimate empathy.
Yeah, but not in a way that you want to help. Just to kind of go, I can see what it's like. So for my example, I've tried this. To work this into a stand-up routine, and it doesn't work. I haven't got there yet. But the idea is that when you're really cold, it's almost impossible to imagine yourself hot. It's really, really, really hard. When you're depressed, it's really hard to imagine yourself happy. And that when you can't even imagine it within yourself, it's very hard to always have that degree of empathy with every other random strange human being on the planet. But I do sort of try to imagine why that person might be angry or why that person might look sad. Not to go over and say, are you okay? Because that's not always appropriate. Just to kind of go, I'm on my own rails, they're on their own rails, and I have to respect that.
This slots into when my dad said everyone's got their own story. Because what you're doing is you're trying to just get a glimpse of their story and not be dismissive of it or walk past it without having a little think.
Exactly. So bin man who is going to Turkey to study, ancient Turkish, whatever it is, history, battles, or railway guy who loves reading and philosophy. It's the same thing working on a few world motorsport championships. Quite often, you'll if you spend any time with the promotional girls, like the Monster Energy girls, most of them are studying to be lawyers, doctors, and they just happen to be genetically incredible and keep themselves fit enough and public enough to generate enough interests in social media and jobs through their kind of what sort of modelling, but promotional work. And they're studying incredibly hard, and in 5 years' time they'll be a practicing barrister or a practicing doctor. And that's you look at them and you kind of go, I'm going to put that person in a box. Bin man, railway worker, superstar, whatever box, good or bad. If you esteem someone really high or if you esteem someone really low, you've got no idea what their internal monologue is. And quite often we esteem all these people that live with their sort of halo effect. They live this perfect life and we go, God, they must be so happy. They're often the least happy people, and the people that we perceive as, low self-esteem, they're actually quite, I'm all right. Quite happy, actually. Got no money, no problems.
You see a lot of people in the pub, don't you, Steph?
I do, yeah. I mean, again, I'm not one for making assumptions based on appearance or what they've got to say. I mean, the point Neil made is everyone's got their own thing going on, and it can be incredibly complex. But I'm a watcher and an observer. I like to let them talk to me, and then.
Well, that's difficult because you get a lot of silent men in pubs, don't you?
You do get a lot of silent, tortured, who appear to be tortured. You can see the cogs turning as they drink, and you're just wondering what is going on there. But it's a brilliant people watching job for me, and it's something that I really enjoy doing.
I bet. Who's the person that's sort of surprised you the most, where you think you've got them, and then something happens?
Probably actually Nick, who did the first podcast here, because I mean, first appearances, you think a scruffy, kind of unquenchable guy who drinks too much, but you scratch beneath the surface and you think, wow, this is quite a complex character. He's got a hell of a lot going on, and a hell of a lot going for him, and it's just that unwritten rule again. You never make assumptions based on appearance, because there's so much beneath the surface.
There's a lovely old guy in the pub who's in his late 80s who you would dismiss as a little old man in the corner,
right?
But he was a cameraman right from, I think, 1940 something, 1941. Documentaries, worldwide documentaries.
Wow.
He's been everywhere.
Peter.
He's been absolutely everywhere. And he's as sharp as a tack. He's very ill. He's very ill.
The brain is still there, though, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's just an incredible character to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say you've had a proper job? Have you ever had a proper job?
Yeah, I've had proper jobs.
How did they go?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I look, and again, I just want to listen to that wood pigeon for a little while. Proper jobs. It's been a while.
Right.
But I remember when I was sort of paying my way through uni in the summers. I used to work in a roofing felt factory in Basildon.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I was kind of quite cocky, and I think I knew it all. And now, as I get older, the more I know that I know, the less that I know, whatever and I can remember I used to do night shifts at this roofing felt factory. I mean, it gets better. And basically, no, but it's a huge, horrific, noisy, smelly, because bitumen is made at one end and it gets poured onto, rows of canvas that get coated in layer upon layer of bitumen and gravel. And my job was at the end, is as it gets rolled off and covered in paper, I put them onto a pallet.
Ooh, smelly and dirty.
Yeah. And once you've got a pallet full, it's like a brief moment of that's a break as the pallet goes away, and then
you got a new pallet.
Yeah, it starts again.
And then you very quickly became a master of that.
Yeah, and of course, and your brain's going the whole time. But I was in a world of men who did that as their job all the time. They didn't. I was doing it for 6 weeks in the summer holidays, or 3 weeks in other holidays to pay for the fun things I wanted to do, or to pay for my studies. And I can remember, I think at one point, I still feel, you get those moments where you think, I feel a bit of shame. I feel like I'm getting some shame on. I'm going a little bit of a shame blush. There was a guy who would come to work on a Friday night, because I think we started at about 10 p.m. And he'd come to work drunk. And I'd be like, well, that's not right. Because we're relying on him. He was sort of halfway down by where the big hot stuff that could kill you gets poured into the machine that could also kill you, and the stuff that comes towards you could kill you. And I was like, grr, I'm 19. I feel like my health and safety is being. And I think I reported him. I kind of went every Friday.
Ooh.
I know.
Oh no.
I know. And I think he got in trouble. And I think I don't think he got fired, but I think he had a warning. And I think basically what I didn't realise is that he was a very unhappy man. That was his life. The money arrived in his bank on a Friday, and he would go and spend it, have a drink, and come to work. And that was his weekly routine.
And the sanctimonious 19-year-old.
Oh God! And I hate that guy. The 19-year-old guy.
Didn't
The
throw himself-
whistleblower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't throw himself into the vat or anything.
No, he didn't.
No.
But he was the next week. He was a broken man, and he didn't know. But I knew, and I kind of thought, and so I often, I go back to that moment and realize that was awful what I did, and I didn't know enough about the world, but I was in that position, and that's what I saw, and yeah.
The youthful, the youth aspect of male development, because I can only talk about the way I developed as a young man. When you look back on your approach to life and the way that you dealt with things, it is actually quite embarrassing to think about. Oh my God, did I really say that? Did I really do that? Did I really go there? Did I really take part in that?
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, no, you don't snap out of it at all, do you?
No, you just kind of wear off the corners.
Yeah.
It's like a brick, and you start with like a really sharp brick.
Yeah.
Or prick in my case. And it's kind of, and then eventually those corners because you go, oh no, I can't say that. So that corners go down. Oh, and I can't do that. That corner's
That's
gone.
the pebble bumping along the bottom of the stream, isn't it?
It's attrition. It's the way these things erode over time in a good way. Otherwise, pebble beaches would be really hard to walk on. That's philosophy. Welcome. But other real jobs. When I was trying to make my way in London, starting my career as an actor, I worked in a telemarketing office in Wandsworth.
Those are places, aren't they?
And I probably did that on and off for about 3 years. And I very quickly was moved off the phones because I was rubbish at telemarketing. But luckily, I could do data entry, so these fingers. So I did. I was the boss's sort of right-hand man.
Batch processing. Batch processing.
Yeah, everything.
What were you selling?
A variety of things.
Right.
If you're interested, I can send you a leaflet.
Was it one of those brutally hard sells?
Was it scripted?
There was some scripted. It wasn't kind of Glengarry Glen Ross level hardcore, but there were some that was. And what was interesting is when I got in there, they employed a lot of actors because a lot of actors, need the money. They can talk, and it's flexible hours, and they were probably on benefits as well, so they could do both. But there was over the time that I worked with the guy, and the guy went through a few changes, and his company had to change names, and he went bankrupt. I was Mr. I'll keep this under my hat because I'd learnt from the 19-year-old prick who'd snitched on the drunk guy. I'd sort of stopped being that guy. So I was like, I would Mr. Discretion now. So I was going to, whatever happened, I kept it under my hat. And I think the boss guy knew that I was reliable. So I kind of moved with the company quite as it shed its skin quite a few times. And by the end of my time there was almost no actors. It was all professional people who were really good at selling on the phone. And you just hear this. There was this African guy called Joseph who would just have this mellifluous voice and go, I'm calling from Rothschild and I would like to sell you a product. Are you having a nice day? And you just go, oh my God, I would buy from him and I'm sitting next to him.
Yeah.
Was there a sales bell?
No, it wasn't like that at all. It was kind of, they were sort of selling appointments with financial advisors and selling insurance to a certain level of clientele, home contents, and also just information gathering. Like I was building databases of huge companies, and people would just phone up and get 3 names from reception and put the phone down, sort of that kind of thing. Not sure any of that really exists anymore because nowadays it's just, have you been injured? Oh, you've just had a crash, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did that for a long time on and off, and it's probably the closest to a proper job because I wasn't doing it in between things. That was what I did all day, every day for quite a long time.
You mentioned discretion.
Yes.
And Steph was talking about his kind of his position of watching people quietly and discreetly, and
you must have seen some things.
Probably extracting things from people that. Has that happened?
Oh yeah, I mean once the drinks start going, the tongue is loosened, isn't it? And obviously I've got peripheral vision and my ears can prick up. I know when to listen and when to get away from the vicinity of what I can hear. I also sadly have observed people who, unfortunately, have a drink problem, but are equally highly functioning individuals, and that's quite an interesting thing to see. I mean, I can't make a judgment on.
No.
I serve the drink. I see them. They appear fine, but beneath it all is just
a slippery slope.
a lot of pain. That's quite an interesting thing, actually.
Sorry, I mean, within talking about discretion, and just leveling it up with the jobs that you've done, Neil. You've been into you've done some glamorous shit, haven't you?
Yes.
And do you find that cap of discretion has kind of served you well in those sort of environments, in those kind of rarefied kind of celebrity gatherings? I'm not asking you to sort of give us tales of celebrity bad behaviour, but does the discretion kind of help?
Yeah, I think once people know that you're trustworthy, that's a huge asset in life. I think I have a lot of people. I mean, I'm an interesting as an individual. I have what I perceive as a lot of sort of friends, but they're sort of relatively peripheral. I have a very few. I don't really have like a tight circle of friends. So what I find I do is that people that get to know me can come in and out of my life, and then back in again and then back out again. They know that if they can confide in me, and I think one of the things that you're referring to, I did 3.5 years as one of the main presenters on MTV Pan-European, and as a result, I was privy to a lot of fun things,
shenanigans.
Yeah, there was a party in Milan in a big hotel where after the after party there was an after party in the lobby of the hotel where P. Diddy, Fred Durst and Khalees just had a right old sing-along round the old Joanna. There was about 20 of us, and we just had a lock-in basically. But you don't. One thing I will say is I have no idea what I would have been like as a human being had Twitter and Instagram existed in the early to mid noughties, when I was sort of doing a lot of this high profile celebrity related presenting work, because a lot of it just it's all in here, and I didn't have the need or desire
to film it,
share
and post it.
Yeah.
And they knew that at the time as
Yeah.
well.
Well, social media's put pay to that kind of celebrity partying thing,
Yeah.
hasn't it? Completely, because it's.
I mean, that was probably purely spontaneous, which never would have happened in this day and age, right?
No, but if it did, the only people, because I know that I still sometimes sort of move in rarefied circles, and there are times when no one gets their phones out. There's like an unwritten rule. This is the point at which we stop any social media, because they've distilled the people that are in the room to the people that only want to be there for that, to be in that moment, rather than to say I'm in this moment.
Yes.
And occasionally that's a lovely place to be, and you kind of go, oh, I've got goosebumps thinking about it now, because you kind of go, no one here wants this to go anywhere. This is one of those rare occasions in the 21st century where this is a moment that is happening for its own sake and some fun. You must get a lot of that in the pub though, because people aren't constantly sharing. They're not all kind of
exactly right. Yeah.
Look at me, I'm having a pint.
Yeah. As you say, I mean, that was a treat for you guys only to lock in there forever.
Yeah.
But the days of the heyday of Rolling Stone magazine, where bands and film stars and people like that would have their own kind of embedded photographer that would just follow them around all the time. They would be chosen by the band,
and a journalist and a photographer would travel with them,
both of which was based completely on trust as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the photographer gets free reign. Just I'll be here.
Yeah.
And they get all the best shots.
Yeah, that's when you would see those amazing kind of reportage style photographs of Mick Jagger, Rod Stewart, Bowie, and Grace Jones all sharing a pizza or.
And there's Warhol in the background with Basquiat. And you go, this is ridiculous. How the fuck does that photo happen?
That's montage.
Yeah. That's nowadays we'd say that's Photoshop, but those were real people because they were there. They were embedded. The closest I've ever got to that is the World Cup 2006 in Germany. I was working over there for the channel that became Dave. At the time, it's called UKTV G2, which is a really catchy name.
Yep. Trips off the tongue.
But now Dave's better, obviously. And me and my mate James were sent out on our own to go and just find stories and report them back to this new format of show, which was a sort of a show on digital cable that was carrying some of the games live, but had a lot of content, a studio show. And me as the presenter and James as the producer / cameraman, or a predator, as you'd call them these days in the UK. In America, that still means rapist. We would go out, fly in the morning, hire a car, drive to Gelsenkirchen or Dusseldorf or Dresden or anywhere, find a story, go and either try and get tickets to the match or go and watch the match in a fan zone. Send a story back, do a live unilateral, move on to the next city. We do 3-day chunks. On our first trip to Frankfurt, we bumped into Ray Winstone and his mates in a hotel, and we did an interview with him and his mates, all of his old West Ham friends since he was a kid. Because we spoke to all of them and not just Ray, I think he really liked us, and he invited us to join him. Like the next time we were in, and that just developed to the point that they were staying in a like an old, whatever the Austrian equivalent of a manor house is, in Kufstein, just across the border from South Germany, from Bavaria. And about halfway through the World Cup, they said, well, just come and stay with us. This is our party central. This is our bunker. And they had they were doing loads of World War II that was there. We've got it. We've got a safe house, blah, 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 whatever the lingo is. But me and James were kind of embedded there, and we were filming, and there was one day, and it was just all blokes. And it was very boozy, but there was one day where we'd been filming, swimming in the lake, chats about the England team, chats about hooliganism. And then there was a point, we'd had a beer, and Ray just kind of looked at James and went, camera goes away now, lads. And we kind of went, ooh. Oh, okay. Oof. And then we were in, but undocumented. And you go, wow. And that felt like those moments from Rolling Stone magazine.
Transgression from...
And nothing, what I'm saying is nothing bad happened. Yeah. Nothing illegal, wrong, transgressive, anything happened. It was just like, we just want to relax now. We don't want to worry about being on, so let's not document this. And it was lovely.
Just a quiet word and the gravelly voice. Yeah.
And you can bet and play at the same time.
And did he call you a slag at any point?
He didn't.
But there was always
he did say there was one time, because we were completely undocumented, whatever the phrase is, we accredited, me and James. But because we were often with Ray and his gang, he had access to the England team. Ray did, because he was the ambassador for England fans. So he was an anti-hooliganism ambassador. And so we went to an England training camp one day. Sven-Göran Eriksson was the boss at the time. And we were just following Ray. So it's me, James, Ray Winstone, and he goes under the rope. And we just followed, because the people at the England training camp just presumed we were his personal crew.
Well, you were.
But no one had agreed. It was not agreed with the FA or anything. And we got under it, and Ray turned around and went, "You still with us, James? You slippery bastard." That was the closest we got to "you slag." It was, and me and James now, we regularly see each other, and it was he regularly will go, "You slippery bastard."
You're still kind of, for me, you're still a kind of you've got a stand-up in you.
Do you think?
Do you think you have?
Yes. Ultimately, yes.
Because Neil stood up, and it kind of fascinates me what do you need to especially now these days. It's not the days of kind of Eddie Izzard, Ben Elton, kind of French and Saunders. Things are very different now, aren't they? And it's like it's probably considered to be a fast track to superstardom, isn't it? And stadium filling.
Yeah, during my tenure on the circuit, I've had two sort of periods of time when I've been on the stand-up circuit, spanning 20 years. In fact, 20 years this year. And in that time, it has become a degree you can do at university.
Yeah.
And a job that you can go alongside traffic warden, bin man.
No way.
Yeah. So in that time, it's gone from being something that an accountant would spend all day in the office dreaming of doing, and then do open spots for 5 years before giving up the day job and doing it. It's now something that people come out of uni. I'm a stand-up now.
Yeah.
I think the key thing you have to have is chutzpah. You have to believe that you've got the bravery and something that you can transmit to a room full of strangers that will make them laugh. I mean, that is number one.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would say that my strengths lie in social awkwardness observations, which I find truly fascinating, actually. Just interactions of different types of groups of people. Mostly, the most interesting ones come from people that don't like each other.
Yeah.
And pretend to, like English people are fantastic at doing.
Yeah.
And you can just see the tension is palpable. And I just love, I mean, it's quite sadistic, but I just love watching that. I find it so interesting.
But that's uniquely British, and quite interesting that British humour is still a thing.
I disagree. I don't think that's uniquely British. I think within most countries, you still have. We presume that one of our British humour things is to be self-deprecating, and within that we think that we have these personality traits, but I don't think that's true at all. Having done a lot of travelling and spent a lot of time in other countries and embedded among the natives, I actually think most communities have exactly that awkwardness. It's a myth that it's unique.
You don't think it's uniquely British at all?
No,
then?
not at all. I think groups of people don't ever bond in a perfect way without that awkwardness, without that kind of judging. That in any country is very, very unusual. Just because when we see Venezuelans protesting or all united, or whoever in different, we presume we would never do that, and maybe we're a little bit shyer, like the shire horses. But maybe. But I think that, first of all, I think that's a myth. Second of all, it's a very interesting angle to go down. If you think, first of all, that's your bigger picture, because as a stand-up, you have to arrive on stage with a worldview that the audience can tap into almost immediately.
Yeah.
And there are two ways that if you were to come to me for lessons on how to do it right, these are the two ways in which you could make that personality work. One is to create that environment in the room, like Stuart Lee does.
Yeah.
Or you do it like Ricky Gervais does, which is to talk about that in a observational way.
Yeah.
Those are the two ways. So you either take the hard route, which is I'm going to make you feel as awkward as the stuff I'm reporting at you is. That's kind of awkward, and that's very difficult, and audiences will hate you and you'll die on your ass loads of times.
Yeah, right.
The other way is like Ricky Gervais, is to observe them and say, "Oh, that was awkward, isn't it?" That's the other. Those are the two ways with that worldview.
Yeah, yeah.
Is this a module at university?
Clearly.
Maybe, yeah.
It sounds like it.
I've never thought of explaining. I'm gonna have to. I sort of informally had loads of these chats driving up and down the country with open spots in the car. Sort of on the way up there, you get a sense of what they want to do, where they are in their career, and then on the way back, when you've seen them, you kind of go, well, maybe you should think about doing this. And those little kind of, sometimes you feel like maybe you've helped some people along the way. I don't know, but that's what I think immediately is you would succeed if you kind of went, I'm going to tell you about why you won't talk to you kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you do get true naturals, don't you, in comedy?
Yeah.
But also those that have worked really hard.
Well, there's
to kind of hone their craft.
Yeah, of course you do. I mean, there are so many examples. There's less of a call for people with funny bones anymore. On the circuit when I started, you would still get people who just decided they needed to dress up as an ironing board and sing Tina Turner songs for 5 minutes. And you'd go, thank Christ these people exist on the circuit, because it breaks up the monotony, and they don't have a career plan. They have a burning need to do that. And I remember seeing so many brilliant novelty acts, and they're very, very rare anymore. But also, even just someone who can walk on stage and fiddle with a microphone stand, do a bit of almost incidental slapstick, some physical comedy. In the room, they might be hilarious, and they might grow and grow and grow because people, have you seen so-and-so? They've got funny bones. They're naturally funny. Your TV producers are going to struggle to translate that to, we'll get them on Mock the Week. We'll get them on 8 out of 10. We'll get them on blah, blah, or we'll give them a 10 minutes on Live at the Apollo, because they would just be crushed. 10 minutes on Live at the Apollo, and they fiddle with the microphone stand, and the viewers at TV go, dead air, click, change channel.
Yeah.
So, but the people that work really hard, like your Jimmy Carrs, for example, I've heard him talk on podcasts, and I was there when he was doing it. It's like flying. It's like pilot hours. Like, people could talk about how many gigs they've done or how long they've been going as a stand-up. If you say I've been going for 5 years, that's meaningless. If you've been going for 5 years, you might have been doing 3 gigs a week for 5 years. Jimmy Carr, when he started out, he was doing 3 gigs a night.
So it's minutes behind microphone.
So it's stage hours.
Yeah,
it's
right.
the muscles of being in a room, sensing where the audience is, philosophically, energy-wise, whether they're in tune with you, and dealing with that timing people, different groups of people, and just kind of mentally and physically and chemically taking an assessment of all the different types of audiences and how that joke works there and that doesn't work there, and just build experience.
Yeah.
And he just did that for years and years and years and years. And
It sounds so technical and unfunny when you describe it. When you describe the industry,
still funny, but yeah, it's hard work, like
brutal.
anything. Yeah, really, really hard work, and it is technical. There's some, like, that you'll watch a stand-up who's been doing the same routine. This doesn't happen so much anymore, and that's one of the good things about a younger generation sweeping through the circuit. Is there was a time a few years ago, there was one stand-up that you would watch doing the same routine that he's been doing for 50
almost
years.
word for word.
Yeah, word for word, and getting the same levels of laugh, maybe to diminishing returns over those 15 years, but still doing it technically brilliantly, and still selling it to the crowd like he's just thought of it on the way to the gig. Yeah. And that is the skill.
Except if you do that once on TV.
Yeah, it's
all gone.
It's killed. Although these days, standard TV doesn't kill a stand-up set anymore, because no one really watches TV properly, No. I mean, they do, but if you do your 10 minutes on Apollo, you can still get away with half of that material, I think. But write some more anyway, because it's your job.
Yeah, and then you'll be assigned to Dave.
Yeah, exactly. But have you actually tried any stand-up? Have you been put in the position?
I have not been put in the position as of yet.
Like a speech or a presentation?
I've done some like I did some comparing for a cricket dinner.
Yeah, that counts.
Which went down quite well, actually. There was only kind of 40 or 50 people there.
Had you done prep? Had you written jokes?
I did it loosely in my brain, but what I did was I worked out levels of drunkenness and levels of different things that I could go into at different times based on what people were talking about.
Okay, nice.
So I was just basically going from different stages, getting people up, presenting awards, and giving a little snippet of each individual that came up.
And did you enjoy the moments where you got a laugh and you knew, I'm in control of this room? Did that give you a little kind of...
Yeah, it was in a pub in Putney, the Jolly Coopers, and they gave us the whole of the back area.
Right.
So, it was really good, actually.
Right.
Getting a bellowing laughter from everyone.
Because it does tickle into a part of your animal brain.
It does.
That you kind of go, ooh, I like this. This is new.
Yeah. No, it was great.
Yeah.
No.
Ever done a best man speech?
Yes, I did a best man speech.
What'd you open it with? It's not the first time I've risen from a warm seat with a piece of paper in my hand. That's the classic.
Something equally as bad as that.
Yeah.
Was it original or was it?
It was. I was actually. This is a marriage that's now breaking down.
Well done.
You
killed it.
Her family were quite uptight, and I just knew that I just couldn't go. I was heckled through it. It was about half an hour. One of the sisters got spectacularly drunk, and she was on the seat just in front of me, and I thought, I've got a microphone here. I've got 80 people in the marquee. Don't push me. But I just saw in my mind the aftermath of me going at her with the high heels would be coming off.
All right, I wonder what you were going to say then.
Yeah.
And
Not taking advantage of
so
everything.
I kept it clean and I didn't offend her side of the family. I just went for him.
Yeah.
So therefore,
You're a gentleman.
exactly right. But that was one of the most nervous I've ever been in my entire life. The 10-minute build up to that.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of shouting my name and banging on the champagne. And I was like, Christ. But once you get going, it was just over in a second.
And overall, an enjoyable experience.
Yeah,
Success.
very much so.
Oh, cool.
And a huge sense of relief and achievement, actually, because I was incredibly nervous for that.
Was it on video? Did somebody video it?
No one videoed it. No one videoed it.
The first ever video production that I made must have been about 89, 90, maybe even earlier, was The Art of the Best Man's Speech.
Really?
Yeah, on VHS.
Is it still available?
Just one VHS.
Could you put it on YouTube for us now and we can watch it?
Well, it's on one VHS tape.
Yeah, but that's what I
Somewhere.
mean. Can you digitize it,
Oh.
stick it on YouTube? That would be brilliant to bring that back.
I'm sure that my friend Dave has got it somewhere. But-
And what was the Art of the Best Man speech? Oh, if you want to summarize the video.
Well, it was pre-internet, so we must have done our research. I can't even remember how we would have done research before the internet.
Books, newspapers.
I think there were books
Yeah,
called The Art of the Best Man's Speech, and there certainly weren't any films or snippets of video.
Yeah, I mean, you go onto YouTube, there are tens of thousands of
Yeah.
very slickly filmed
Yeah.
best men's speech, most of which are in America.
Well, they're the best men.
They are the best men.
Americans are supremely confident behind the mic, aren't they? And
Again,
those,
that's a massive generalization. I think the ones that we see behind the mic in our sort of sphere of reference appear that confident. As a rule, they are slightly more.
But
confident.
you've interviewed thousands of people,
Yes.
and I've interviewed hundreds. But I've done the corporate thing, so
Yeah.
I've sat down in front of people in suits talking about their business one way or another, and I've done hundreds of those. And without fail, every single American or North American,
Yeah.
Canadian, whatever, just come across so much better than your average British executive. They're just better at it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know why. Because even if you took a trained public speaking public schoolboy type and sat them side by side with an average American executive, the American would just
Well, it's
steal
because
it.
they believe they've got the right to be there. They have the self-esteem. They don't. It's not second guessing every word they say that it's going to be judged because someone's looking at them going, "You don't deserve to be there." They kind of go, "I am happy in myself, and I am."
That's what it is.
Yeah, they've been grilled every day. You stand up and go, "I am an amazing person. I am a member of this amazing nation," and we don't have anything like that. So they've had self-esteem, to a certain extent drummed into them. I would say is part of that.
Yeah.
So the people that succeed, that's what you got to remember, is you're interviewing people that succeed and have that confidence. So that has succeeded for them both professionally and personally, I would say. Best man-wise, speech-wise, what you described there is a classic difficult Friday night crowd where there's a group of people over here who could turn. There's a group of people over here you don't want to offend.
Yeah.
There's someone in the front row who you really want to tear a new one to,
Yeah.
but the rest of the room aren't aware of them.
Yes.
That's standard Friday night
Yeah, sure.
jongleurs or any club around the country, the Glee Club so you've handled that with aplomb, and it's definitely something that you clearly have the skill set to do with strangers. You should try it.
Yeah,
definitely try it.
Just quickly before you go, do you remember the Screaming Blue Murder clubs and incarnations around here? At Hampton Court Bridge at the Mitre.
Leather Bottle
in Wimbledon.
Fox and Hounds as well.
Yeah. And also very early on there was a place above Tony Roma's right next to the bridge. A big long club where I very first saw Screaming Blue Murder.
Really?
With Sean
Mio?
Mio. Sean Mio and Eddie Izzard. Fantastic. But it was really big round here. The Rose, also in Hampton, above a pub, little room.
I've got a Sean Mio story for another time.
We should get him in. He lives in Surbiton.
Not when I'm here. You slippery bastard.
Smash his face in. Well, that's a little bit more bunkum. But thanks, Neil.
You're welcome.
Hope to see you again soon.
Well, there's plenty of ways to see me these days.
Yeah, comedian.
All the plugs, all of the plugs will be in the description underneath. I presume all the things that I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, that's your camera. You can just say, please subscribe or
like and subscribe.
Have a look at my links.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
I'm in 4 things that are available on Amazon Prime at the moment.
Oh,
3
yeah.
feature films and a TV series. So that's my current claim to fame.
What are the names of those?
Dark Ditties.
Stag Hunt?
Finders Keepers. Stag Hunt. That's a feature film. Richard the Lionheart Rebellion.
Oh, that looks good.
Feature film.
You look good in that,
Yeah,
if you don't mind me
thanks,
saying.
mate. And there's a web series called iDog, which is now on Amazon Prime. And all I do in that is have sex.
Steph,
Yes,
see you next time?
absolutely. Been a pleasure as always.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, well, see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.